When we think of hazard recognition, we typically think of hazards that exist on the job site or right-of-way, such as pinch points, mobile equipment, excavations, line of fire hazards, or maybe H2S. Each one of these hazards can change or become dangerous in the blink of an eye. But there is one situation that each of us face daily where the hazards change more rapidly than in any other task we do, and that task is driving. Whether we are driving to the office, driving to a job site, or driving equipment out to the next project, we're exposed to the hazards that driving presents. Essentially, we're in a heavy metal container driving up to 70 miles per hour through space while hundreds or even thousands of other drivers are doing the same thing around us. This may sound chaotic, but it's actually very organized. However, despite the organization of our roadways and laws, there are still too many variables that can affect us while on the road. Human error, complacency, mechanical issues, weather, and driver distractions are just a few of many. Reviewing driving incidents from 2018 for ISP alone reveals that 51 incidents were preventable. This is 55% of the total number of driving incidents versus 45% of non-preventable incidents. To further break down this number, each preventable incident can be classified into one of four groups depending on severity. You'll notice that the highest rate appears in Category 2, which is classified as an insurance reportable incident. AGON's number one loss category for vehicle incidents are due to rear-ending accidents. Although the total number of rear-ending accidents isn't as high as other types, the severity typically falls into the more severe categories and increases our overall losses. While reviewing the chart of preventable accidents for ISP in 2018, we were faced with a broad question. How do we protect ourselves from the preventable and non-preventable hazards a roadway can present? There's no one answer that will guarantee your safety over the road, but there are several habits you can develop that will greatly improve your driving abilities and increase your awareness on the road. As mentioned earlier, hazards on the roadway can arise faster than anywhere else. The distracted driver on the phone, the driver trying to beat the yellow light, the driver that failed to tie down his load properly and check the condition of his trailer he just pulled out on the road, or maybe the driver that hasn't cleaned his windshield lately and is now driving into the sun and trying to fight the glare. We've all seen or experienced these scenarios at one time or another. We share the road with drivers in situations that are beyond our control, but by retraining ourselves and developing better driving habits, we can plan for these hazards before they happen, and we can allow more room for identifying and reacting to the situation. Now we're going to take a look at an actual driving scenario similar to one that we all face every day, whether we are going to work or to a job site. This is a portion of my typical commute to work each day. As we go along this trip, we will focus on three simple steps: plan, identify, and react. Our focus has to be on driving, but we also must put much of this focus on potential hazards. We must look ahead and prepare for hazards that may present themselves around the next corner. One of the first things you've probably noticed is the condition of the roadway. Light snow has caused the road to be a little slicker than normal. You've also probably noticed the considerable amount of bends in the road. Although the speed limit is 45 miles per hour, the combination of snow, ice, and tight turns calls for a slower speed and a safer distance behind the vehicle in front of us. Although there isn't much oncoming traffic, it's still a hazard that we need to plan for, especially in conditions like this. The middle of the road is not clearly visible due to the snow, and the oncoming lane appears to have more snow-covered roadway than us. It's difficult to see on camera, but the oncoming white SUV just lost a bit of traction coming around the corner. The driver was able to recover in time, but by identifying this early, I was able to slow my speed and prepare as a safe reaction. Oftentimes, other drivers are the cause of an accident. As mentioned earlier, we have all spotted distracted drivers that are not as focused on driving as they should be. Planning for this and identifying it early is the key to reacting safely. As we pass by, we can see another driver that may have been overconfident, which obviously resulted in running off of the road and into the snowbank. As we continue down this road, what other hazards should you plan for? What about falling rocks or other drivers, or maybe snowplows or wildlife? Deer and other wildlife in the road remains one of the highest number of leading indicator reports we receive with regards to driving. Planning for this and scanning the sides of the road frequently can allow you to identify this hazard quick enough to react appropriately and safely. Now we're going to change gears a little and get onto the highway. What do you notice about this type of driving as opposed to driving in rural areas? The traffic is much more dense in this area, the speed limit is higher, and it's more difficult to continuously maintain a safe distance between us and the vehicle in front. If the gap is too close, then we have much less time to react to changing conditions and hazards. Allowing adequate space is important even though the space can often be overtaken by another vehicle switching into our lane. We must still maintain the safe cushion of space at all times. Traffic lights are also much more frequent in this environment. It's important to look far enough ahead that you know the status of the light before you approach. I was able to notice that this light had recently become green and the lights in my lane were blinking yellow arrows, which allow me to proceed if there is no oncoming traffic. When at a traffic light or stop sign, it is always important to allow yourself enough space so that you can see asphalt between you and the car in front of you. This buffer could be used to react to another driver or hazard if needed. As the light turns green, always remember to allow 2 seconds of space before entering the intersection. As I approach the next light, I know that I have adequate time to pass through safely. The light is a fresh green as opposed to a stale green that changed too far ahead of my approach. Either way, as I pass through the intersection, it is important that I place my foot over the brake so that I can react quicker if needed. Intersections can be dangerous locations, so as I cross, I'm observing traffic from all angles to ensure I'm not surprised by another driver trying to beat a yellow light or distracted by their phone. Driving is one of the most repeated tasks we do, and with the speed this task is performed and the variable of other drivers, driving is also one of our most dangerous tasks. However, if we can readjust our focus while driving and eliminate our distractions, we can certainly become safer drivers. Planning for what might happen, identifying what does happen, and reacting safely because you were prepared for what happens are 3 steps that can make you a better driver. Safe driving is one of Aegeon's life-saving rules because of the risk it involves. Simply reviewing this video and memorizing the 3 steps is not going to make you a better driver. If you want to improve your safe driving habits, you must begin to practice these steps for hazard identification when behind the wheel. Over time, it will become ingrained in your driving mentality and form positive and defensive habits.